And today I am really pleased to have with me again back in the studio, Steve Captain Hoffman. And Steve has been a really great mentor for me because he puts out an incredible amount of content through his company Founder Space. So just very quickly about him, he is called Captain Hoff in Silicon Valley, right? He's the chairman and CEO of Founder Space, one of the world's leading incubators and accelerators, and he's also an angel investor, serial entrepreneur, and author of several award-winning books. So I'm really pleased to have him back. Steve, welcome to the show.
Wonderful to be here.
So I want to go back in and talk a little bit about, first of all, give you a chance to introduce yourself to the audience, but also I'd like to know what are you up to these days? How has Founder Space been able to grow or been able to manage in this age of everyone working from home and different different needs for different companies are popping up all the time?
It has been a crazy time for us. I mean, really,
Mhm.
we got turned on our head. So Founder Space is a global startup incubator and accelerator, which means we have over 50 partners in 22 different countries. Prior to the pandemic, I spent 70% of my time traveling. And since the pandemic, I have spent almost all my time in my home communicating remotely to all our partners everywhere. So it's been tough because we're here in Silicon Valley. We had to shut down our physical incubator. We had to move everything online. So we're doing all our talks, all our vetting entrepreneurs, reviewing business plans, pitch events, all of that online right now, except in China, where we have a number of incubators that are open because they have COVID under control and they have that entire country walled off, shut off. So nobody can go in and out without very strict quarantine. So that's our situation.
Wow, that's amazing. So I didn't even realize that China was still a player. But then again, with over a billion people there, of course it could successfully exist on its own. Even with like you said, walling off everybody. How is that? How do you see COVID affecting the startup space this year, and especially now that we're just starting to come out of it? Some places more successful than others. I know California is still on lockdown a little bit, Florida's a little bit open, but so there's like this mismatch of everything going on. It's all very confusing, right? But at the same
Well,
time, there's a lot of business to be made here, right?
oddly, COVID has been a super like caffeinated boost for the startup industry. Like you would imagine, nobody can go and meet in person. That would hurt the startup industry. But since so much of the startup industry is about online products, and we are spending so much time trapped in our houses, online, communicating, doing business, all these things, buying our products instead of going to the store. This has just supercharged the startup industry, and a lot of entrepreneurs have benefited because their companies are being funded right and left. There's more money than ever before in Silicon Valley right now. And I will tell you, as things open up, it'll be good for the rest of the economy, but it won't slow the startup industry down. The startup industry is going to keep growing no matter what because technology affects everything. Now, granted, I should say that there are some businesses, some startup founders who had to pivot. They had to change direction because their products were focused like on dealing with retail stores or travel, and that got hit really hard. So some of them had to make major adjustments, but the majority of them actually received a boost from this crisis.
That's amazing because when you think about all of the people that got affected, one of the things I was thinking about is like, oh, some people are going to get massively rich off of this, right? And you still want to be sensitive to the other people who stake their bets and, just opening a restaurant, started an airline, like you said, in the travel industry. It's like, dude, like it's like they can't get a break, right? And I guess what's happening is that now we've been in this for a solid year. And do you feel people are getting more comfortable with it, or is it becoming something that's gonna, just okay, I'm done. Let's just let's go back to normal, please.
So I think there's going to be a transition period. So a lot of us are used to working at home. A lot of businesses, especially large companies like Google and Facebook and Microsoft, have allowed their employees to work from home. So readjusting, a lot of people will continue to work at home and with a totally different lifestyle than they had before. But for the majority of Americans and the majority of people around the world, we will, I think, rapidly, as soon as COVID is really under control, people will bounce back. We will go back. I can't tell you, I crave face-to-face meetings. I crave going out and just, walking around the store and browsing without worrying about getting infected. I want to travel. And I think we're going to see an explosion of that once, the vaccines and get to the point where we have herd immunity.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. I want to segue into your one big tip because I think it's poignant and timely for what entrepreneurs need to do today in order to just to rethink their business, right? And the way you broke it down is to think like an entertainer, right? And I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, wait a second. An entertainer can mean a lot of things, right? But there is a certain entertainment value. There is a certain, I need to inform you in a way that you are going to receive the information in order to pitch your startup or to pitch your product, or however it is. Let's talk about that one big tip. What is that? What is uh, um, working as an entertainer mean to you?
Well, it means a lot to me personally because I've worked in the entertainment business. I actually was a Hollywood TV development executive working on all these different projects. I also have a technology background, and I ended up wedding those and going into online entertainment and games. And I had a lot of success in the game space, where I was an entrepreneur, forming many companies, and then that led me to being an investor and running a startup incubator and accelerator. I understand both technology and entertainment. And I will tell you, as an entrepreneur myself and working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, I look at them and I see that the ones who really grasp that their job isn't just to be a business person. It isn't just to be spout out numbers or specs on technology. Their job is really to communicate well. And when I say be an entertainer, I mean understand how to communicate your vision, your ideas in a way that moves people, that speaks to them, not to their intellectual brain, but to their emotions, to their heart. You would be surprised. Like you go to Silicon Valley and you go to Sand Hill Road, which is the road where all the VCs are, and you pitch these people, and they might have backgrounds from Harvard or MIT or Wharton or other places. But honestly, what gets them to write the check is not all the facts you throw at them, but whether you can create a story that resonates, a story they can believe in. This is how we make decisions. And understanding this is understanding how to truly sell something, how to truly convey the mission, your product, your values. All of those have to be combined into a story.
Let's talk about the story part for a minute because that's something that's always fascinated me. It's like, you know, it, it- there are templates out there that you can, first talk about the breakdown and then, the move the big domino out of the way. There's all kinds of ways to tell a corporate or to tell a story about how your product can actually benefit somebody. What would you say are some of the basics that you would need to learn in order to be a good storyteller as you're talking about your product, and as it pertains to your business?
The first thing you need to understand when telling a story, when communicating, is that people don't respond to facts alone. Now, if you look at the Wall Street Journal, right, it's about stocks. and it could just be filled with numbers, right? It could all be numbers if you were like a computer, a quant, a machine, and wanted to just process all those numbers and figure out which stock was best. But the Wall Street Journal doesn't do that. They tell narratives around each stock, around each company, why that company is important, why those numbers mean something. So as human beings, we didn't grow up, we didn't evolve with numbers. We evolved as a storytelling civilization where everything from the Bible to everything you read in the newspaper to all of our literature, everything that we learn is encapsulated in a story, history, everything. So when you go out there to communicate with investors, don't just think of the statistics, like how many products you sold, what revenue, how your users are returning to your application or buying your product over. What you need to do is take those core facts and embed them in a compelling narrative that shows why your business is so important. And I tell entrepreneurs a great place to start is you. Now, what inspired you to start this company? There's a story behind that. All of us, we didn't start our businesses and pour our sweat, blood, tears, and often life savings into it for no reason. We had a reason we were going to take this risk. We were going to leave a safe job and embark on being an entrepreneur, where 95% or higher of entrepreneurs fail, And so, like, my book, Surviving a Startup, is about this. It's about storytelling. It's about all the fundraising. It's about a product. It's about all those things you need to put together to break through. And when you're crafting your own story, you want to think of it like you would a very interesting story you would read. What caused you? Did you invent this medical device because your uncle, who you were very close to, or your aunt died in a hospital and they couldn't get this type of care because this device didn't exist? Or did you invent this product because you wanted to change the world in a really positive way? Like, for example, Tom's shoes, where he makes those shoes and he would give away a pair to somebody who really needed them. Or all the companies who did the glasses and they'd give free glasses to the needy. That story resonated for a while. When that story was brand new, it caught on like wildfire. Everybody was talking about it. So they would go out and go to Tom's or these other sites that would give to charity as a way of feeling good about themselves and giving back to society, and understanding why Tom, the guy who founded the company, he told the story of why he did this. If you look at everything, all these stocks that are moving, like Bitcoin, or Uber going up and down, or any of these, they are all really compelling stories that get told over and over and over and evolve. So every time you open up your news app, you're reading a new facet of the story. Like we heard the WeWork story. Adam Newman, the CEO of WeWork, was a master storyteller. In fact, he could tell a story so well that people believed in his crazy idea that what he was selling wasn't real estate. It was some sort of new technology platform, when really it was real estate. He was almost too good a storyteller for his own good, because it allowed him to avoid the fundamentals. But most people don't have that problem. Most people can't, when they go into pitch, they think that the PowerPoint slides and kind of just explaining it will be enough, but it's not enough. You need to create the narrative of what your company is today, this tiny seed, and tell the story of how it is going to grow into a massive business, because that is what investors want. How will it happen? How are you going to move people? How are you going to catch their attention? What do your users really need? And tell stories about your users. Why are they so hungry to get your product? Why is your product or service so necessary in the world today? This is the heart of storytelling.
It's interesting, as you were going through that whole description, I would imagine that a startup or or someone that's pitching a product, they would need to create two or three or four ancillary stories that would also go along with that, right? Because the story that you're telling to investors is not necessarily the exact same story that you would tell to your end users, or to, to the enterprise who you're asking to buy, to buy into this product. How do you shift that, just shift that narrative a little bit, so that you're still telling basically the same overarching story, right? But then you're zooming in on that particular audience, and making that particular audience light up to what it is that you're talking about.
This is what great entrepreneurs do. So if you look at an incredible storyteller, it's like Elon Musk. So Elon Musk, like, people love him because he doesn't say, "Oh, I'm going to build a car company that's electric." He talks about how, electric cars are the future and they will change transportation and everything. The world absolutely needs this. He doesn't talk about, "Oh, I'm going to carry some satellites into orbit." Elon Musk talks about going to Mars, right? So you need this overarching story, as you pointed out, but then you also need to adapt your story to your audience. So whether you're speaking to your employees to motivate your employees, whether you're speaking to investors or customers, you're going to tell a different version of the same fundamental story. And the difference will be, you need to understand your audience. So just like you need to think like an entertainer, you need to understand, what does your audience want? Why are they engaging with you? For your customers, they want to understand your story around what it can do for them. What benefit does it provide them? What utility, what value does it provide them? For your employees, you want to tell your story. Again, they're an employee. They want to be part of something great. They want to be part of something meaningful. They want to have a career and a future. You need to tailor your story to show them how working in your business and working really hard will pay off for them in their lives, and how you care about them, and how your company cares, and how you're building something of value to the world. For investors, they want to know, fundamentally, their job is to get a huge return on their investment. That, for most, unless they're a social investor, and then you would point out all the social benefits of your product or service. So you need to understand what your investor's mindset is, who they are, what they care about. And then even within investors, many people invest for different reasons. Some invest because they care about the numbers. They want a big return. Others invest for an ego. They want to be part of something very exciting, something everybody's talking about. Others invest because they want to make the world a better place. So you need to show them that. So you're always adapting your story for your audience.
It's interesting that you brought that part up, because basically what you're, like an entertainer, let's just take a comedian, right? Some comedians' jokes don't travel well, right? They may sound funny on the West Coast. You come over here on the East Coast, and it's like, hey, wait, dude, that's not funny, right? And you need to figure out, what is it that my audience actually wants to hear, right? Because if you're not clued into that, you could still be a great storyteller, right? But if they're not, like, particularly excited about that particular product at that particular time, you kind of just wasted your breath, right? Like how would you get around that? How would you gauge that in order to see who's, when is the right time, or what is the right story to tell to that particular audience?
The thing you need to do is, not a lot of people go out and give the same pitch to everybody, right? They literally get their pitch and they go through it the same way for I tell them, wait a second. You're making a huge mistake. Whether you want to raise capital, or you want to get customers, or you want to motivate your team, those are not the same people. You give them the same pitch, it's going to fall flat, like you said, on most of them. What you need to do is pay attention. You need to put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, what do they want? You can, honestly, if you don't know what they're passionate about, let's say you're meeting an investor for the first time, before you pitch that investor, look up their bio, read their Twitter feed or their
Yeah,
blog.
do your research, right? I mean,
They
you're
will
only
be
asking
telling
for.
you, yeah, they will tell you what they care about, right? The
Mhm.
beauty of the web is the information is out there. And then think of investors and understand investors in general. Like, what does this person need to do? Like, if you're inside a VC firm, you need your arming this one investor, this one partner in the firm, giving them the story that they can then propagate throughout the firm. They have to retell your story. You're not going to be able to tell it to everybody in the firm. At first, this person is going to have to believe they can sell it within their own firm. So you have to understand the dynamics of a venture firm. A lot of this I write about in my book, like the psychology of investors, how venture firms work, how consensus decision making in these firms work when they start to write the checks. You need to understand, the more you understand about that, the better you can position the story you give them so that then they can go out and use it themselves. That is key. It's key with everything, with your employees too. You need to understand, are your employees having trouble? Do they have concerns? What is their, what type of people are you hiring? And what do they expect from your company? And always paying attention, doing research, and even directly asking them questions. Go up to your employees and ask them, what are your concerns? What do you really want from this company? What do you want? Why did you join? You can ask them that. You can ask investors when you first meet with them, what are your priorities? What do you look for in a successful company? Asking questions and not doing all the talking is critical to learning this.
You know, the visual that I got as you were explaining that is I just got a new toy, right? It's called a loop deck, right? So this is very similar to the Stream Deck. So the Stream Deck is basically a device where you program buttons and then control your live streams and all that, and it's like a really great it's a really great thing. Then this ultra techie device comes out that has more knobs and buttons on it, right? And I compared the two, right? I actually bought both of them, tried to figure it out, and like, okay, the Stream Deck is definitely easier to use, but this loop deck is definitely sexier on my desk, right? Until I got into the configuration app for this, then I just realized this thing was coded by a bunch of techies who didn't ask anybody anything, right? Because it is so convoluted the way you have to go in and assign an icon and move things around, whereas the Stream Deck is just like that. It's just, I was able to set up the entire board within like 10 minutes. I spent the whole weekend setting up this loop deck. I love my loop deck. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, oh my
God. They didn't
ask
the customer, right?
They didn't ask the customer. Right. And then it becomes evident in the support tickets that I'm sending to them. Like, hey, guys.
Right. That's costing them money.
Right, it is. I did something that, like, I put emojis in everything, right? I put emojis on my folders. I put emojis on my labels, like everything, right? I put an emoji on one of the buttons, and then it tanked the whole software. They had to teach me how to uninstall everything, like down to the code, in order to get this thing. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I really love your product, but yeah, you guys got to fix that. And I think it's really poignant, the way you're talking about, go out and ask your customers, how are they going to use this, right? How are how are the power users going to use it, and how are the medium user people are going to do it? I think they're completely separate groups. I mean, as as someone who works with macros and likes a little bit of programming, yeah, it was easy for me to actually apply that, right? But I assume a lot of people are going to be sending this product back, simply because it is so convoluted, the process to be able to set it up. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Steve, can you please talk a little bit about the book you have coming out? And also, just explain to people a little bit more about how Founder Space works and how they can reach out to you if they want to learn more.
Sure. So the book is really a compilation of all the knowledge I have gained over 2 decades running 3 of my own venture-funded startups and working with hundreds of entrepreneurs globally. Like, it's not a book which has one idea and then keeps repeating that idea in different forms. It's a book packed with like everything you need, from how to do guerrilla marketing, how to pitch investors, how to analyze your products, what an entrepreneur's role is in managing their team and motivating their team and being a leader, and really the nitty gritty, like those little things that you don't think about when you're doing a business that make all the difference, that can determine whether your business is a success, one of those few that become unicorns, or one of the many that fail. And I just want to give you like one idea from my book. I'm going to tell you a little story. And this is because of thinking like an entertainer is the theme, I think it's really appropriate. So the story is, there was this entrepreneur I met, and he was a video DJ on YouTube, and he was doing really well. He got really popular until YouTube. This was in the early days. Banned, stopped him from using music that he didn't have licenses for. So he basically had to shut down his channel, and he was kind of at a loss, but he loved music, and he didn't have much money after all his YouTube business was shut down. So he was living in a trailer home in the middle of the United States, in the Midwest, and he got an idea that he's going to build a music app. He is going to create a music app, and he got his buddies together. They all started working on it. The problem was they didn't know anybody in Silicon Valley. So he, went ahead and wrote these emails to venture capitalists in Silicon Valley that he didn't know, these long emails explaining how passionate he was, what he wants to do. And he sent out, hundreds of these. One responded, and it was Tim Draper. Tim Draper is a very famous, I know him, he's a great guy, very famous and kind of eccentric venture capitalist. And he saw this guy's email and said, he didn't know where the guy was from. He said, okay, come in on Thursday. Well, the guy was, over 1,000 miles away. And he was like, okay, we got to get there Thursday. This is our chance. And so he gets all his friends together. They rush they book their tickets on a flight, and sure enough, a blizzard hits because it's the middle of winter. A blizzard hits, all the planes are grounded, but the entrepreneur doesn't let that stop him. The entrepreneur goes, gets in the car, and they drive to a city several hours away where the airport's open. They catch the midnight flight. They fly all the way to Silicon Valley. They land there, they jump in an Uber, and they get to Tim Draper's office just in time. But wow. He doesn't just walk in with a boring pitch. Now, he knows this is his one shot at getting money, right? And he's probably only going to get one. They spent all their money just getting here, the little they had. So the group of the four of them, they dress up in crazy costumes. And one of them's wearing their mascot. Another one carries a big boom box, like an 80s style boom box, boom, boom music. And, they're doing a music app, and they come dancing into the very staid and quiet venture capitalist office. The receptionist looks up, people look around, nobody knows what they're doing. And they're like, where's Tim Draper? And they go, that way. And then they just march on in or dance on in to his office. And they're all crazy. They pitch him an idea. And you know what happens? They walk out of that meeting with a check for $400,000. So it was like when I say think like an entertainer, I mean not just telling a great story, I mean putting on a great show. It's boring being a VC. Now, Tim Draper saw these guys and goes, if they have that much energy and that much creativity, I want to take a bet on them. It wasn't like they didn't have much. They're very early stage, right? They just had the beginning. They hadn't even launched their app. So they just looked at this person. They're like, yeah, I'll take a risk on these people. And when you go out there to pitch, think like an entertainer. If you have a robot, don't just talk about your robot, bring it on stage, show the investors, like the pitch event. If you have food, if you're a food tech startup and this new food, bring it out there and have them try it. Like if have the investors eat your, lab grown beef burger in the pitch, or your special chocolate, or that has no sugar and no calories, or whatever you've created, really, every time an entrepreneur comes to me, I had the early virtual reality guys come to me, this company Servios, right when Oculus was launching it, and they want deck and perfect their pitch. And I was like, forget it, guys. Just put the VR unit on them and you'll get funded. I'll make 3 introductions. I guarantee, just put the VR unit on them. They're like, okay. They walk out. Literally in 2 weeks, they raised $5 million from one of my introductions. Like, this is the power of, in capturing people by the heart, right? Really moving them, thinking like an entertainer, putting, making an experience for them, not just a story, an experience. And if you can do that, you will be successful. Now, I will tell you a little about myself, since I know we're wrapping up and I could talk all day, but if you want to reach out to me with your business plan, we're doing a lot in the blockchain now, so we're really looking for blockchain experts, but any software, hardware, anything, go to founderspace.io. untitled.com. Go there and sign up. And also, if you want to see more of me, we have a special offer. So if you, my book, Surviving a Startup, just is being published by HarperCollins, just went on pre-order. And if you order it while it's on pre-order, we will give you free access to our full online startup program, which costs more than the book. So you will get
Wow.
that free. Just go to founderspace/promo, founderspace.com/promo, and you'll see the offer. And it's just, thank you so much, Jeff, for having me today. It's been really fun.
It's always a pleasure to have you. You always bring the energy. Um, Thank you as well, for coming over, and it's just great that you can really articulate and bring out the best of what some crazy intelligent people are doing, and then get them funded so that they can get their products out there as well. So thank you so much for that. I
And
really
I
appreciate
love it.
you.
I love
I,
working with entrepreneurs.
it shows. It
Yeah,
shows. Thank you so much for joining me today, Steve. It's been a pleasure. A pleasure.
my pleasure.